At a small preschool called Little Talk, the owner and teacher, Nina, is deeply loved by all her students. She has been away on leave for 3 weeks without any clear explanation, so the children have been missing her badly. It is Thursday, and the next day is supposed to be Rika's birthday, which also happens to be Nina's birthday too. But since the next day is a public holiday, Nina decides to celebrate Rika's birthday early, and Rika's mother agrees. Since Rika's mother is busy working, she asked her driver, Govakar, to deliver the birthday cakes Nina has already ordered. Nina is engaged to a well-known lawyer named Rohit. His house is large and luxurious, and Nina uses the front part of it to run the preschool because she truly loves being around children. She is usually helped by the housemaid Safitri, who looks after the kids with her. But on that day, Safitri leaves to take care of some identity card paperwork. A little later, Nina goes to the kitchen to talk with Rohit. That day, Rohit is heading out to meet a client who lives about 3 hours away for a major criminal case that has already gone viral across the country. The case is so huge that millions of people are protesting over it, and even the Prime Minister, Maya, is expected to get involved. Once Rohit leaves, Nina goes back to spending time with the 16 children at the preschool, and she lets them watch cartoons for a while. But as soon as the children settle down, she quietly walks into her room and openly calls the police. She gives her name and calmly tells them that she has taken 16 preschool children hostage inside Little Talk. This is a Thursday. The moment the call ends, Nina locks the main door and shuts all the curtains. Her expression turns cold and intense, like she has been carrying deep anger and resentment for a very long time. She even takes out a pistol, making it clear that this kidnapping has been carefully planned from the start. Not long after that, Govakar arrives with the birthday cakes. Nina lets him into the kitchen, but within seconds, she pulls a gun on him, ties him up, tapes his mouth shut, and turns off his phone.
ये क्या है मैडम क्या कर रहा हूँ मैडम यहाँ बच्चे लोग हैं मैडम ऐसे क्यों कर रहे हो मैडम बच्चों लोगों का तो सोचा मैडम
Around the same time, Safitri comes back through the kitchen door after realizing she left her phone behind. She is immediately captured too, and her phone is also switched off. After that, Nina gives bread to the children, and at one point she is also seen taking out some medicine. Soon after, a police officer named Lokande arrives and asks the house security guard if anything unusual is happening inside the preschool. But the guard assumes everything is normal. From his point of view, children make noise every day, so nothing seems out of place. Since he has no idea what Nana is actually doing inside, the police start to think the hostage report was just a prank call. From outside, all they can hear are children watching cartoons. Lokand reports back to his superior, Catherine, who is pregnant, saying everything seems normal at the preschool. But just as the police are about to leave, Nana suddenly fires 2 shots into the air, deliberately forcing them to take the situation seriously. Catherine, who has just gotten into her car, immediately calls Nana. But Nana makes it clear that she only wants to speak with a specific officer named Javed, then abruptly ends the call. Realizing this is no longer a false alarm, Catherine quickly mobilizes a full police response and contacts Javed, who turns out to be her ex-husband, asking him to come to the scene immediately. Within a short time, the area is completely locked down. Neighbors are evacuated, nearby buildings, including a theater across the street, are turned into a temporary command center, and the roads are blocked off as armed units take position. Inside the house, some of the children need to use the bathroom, so Nina briefly unties Safitri and orders her to accompany them. She warns her not to try anything, making it clear the children's lives are at risk. Once they return, Safitri is tied up again. Not long after, Nina records a video and sends it to the parents' group. In it, she confirms that she has taken their children hostage and demands that the police follow her instructions, or things will escalate. She knows the video will spread quickly across social media and news outlets, but she emphasizes that this is not a joke. 16 children's lives are on the line. Rohi is shocked when he sees the video of his fiancée going viral. He tries to call Nina, but she does not answer, so he immediately heads back home. Meanwhile, inside the house, Nina continues to act calmly. She talks and plays with the children as if nothing is wrong, even casually reading the angry comments flooding in online. Soon after, Javed arrives at the scene. From the neighbors, he learns that the house and preschool belong to Rohit. Using a neighbor's phone, he contacts Rohit and asks for details like his car plate number and location, since Rohit is now considered a possible accomplice. Outside, the parents are growing more anxious and desperate, especially since the police are not sharing much information. Catherine tries to reassure them, explaining that they are still trying to understand Nina's motives. One parent mentions that Nina had been on leave for 3 weeks and only returned that day, which raises even more questions since she has always been known as a kind and caring person. To prevent chaos and media pressure, Catherine orders Lokanda to move the parents to a nearby cafe. At the same time, she assigns officers to investigate what Nina had been doing during those 3 weeks. Not long after, a tactical team arrives, ready to storm the house and end the situation quickly. But Javed strongly disagrees. With so many children inside, any aggressive move could push Nina to act recklessly. Still, Catherine chooses to proceed. Later, Javed heads to the command center and calls Nina to begin negotiations, with the entire team listening in. Nina explains that she specifically called him there because she believes he is a man of integrity, someone who always does his job properly. Without wasting any time, Nina demands 50 million rupees to be transferred into her account within 1 hour. In return, she says she will release only one child. Then she immediately ends the call. But she does not stop there. Soon after, she uploads another video to social media, sharing the result of the negotiation. She adds a chilling warning. If the money is not transferred within 1 hour, she will kill one child every hour in alphabetical order, starting with a boy named Akash. At the same time, a news presenter named Shalini is shocked when she learns about the kidnapping. Her own child studies at Little Talk. Without hesitation, she rushes to the scene. Outside, the crowd and media presence continue to grow, and soon a high-ranking police official named Irani arrives. Tension rises again as Javed and Catherine clash over what to do next. Javed wants to comply with Naina's demand and transfer the money to save at least one child. Catherine, on the other hand, believes they should move forward with a tactical assault. In her view, Nina is just one woman who would not dare to harm a child. Catherine then orders all communication lines to be cut off inside the house, including phones, internet, mobile signals, Wi-Fi, and even TV transmissions. At the same time, she deploys the tactical team to storm the house and rescue the hostages. As the team attempts to enter from the back, Nina immediately opens fire to push them back. Javed, furious at what he sees as a reckless move, orders the entire team to retreat at once. Inside, Nina remains completely unfazed. She tells the children to cover their ears, claiming that dangerous people are outside, then fires again as a warning. With the internet cut off, she finds another way to reconnect by using Safitri's phone, and once her device becomes active again, the police are able to track it. Not long after, Nina calls Akash over and invites him to play their usual shooting game. Akash takes on the role of the victim, just like they have done before, but this time, Nina points a real gun at him while streaming live on social media. Since the money has not yet been transferred and the tactical team is still trying to break in, she follows through on her threat. She shoots Akash, and the moment is broadcast live across the entire country. The situation immediately escalates. Irani removes Catherine from the operation, holding her responsible for the failed assault that led to a child being killed. Command is handed over to Javed, and from that point on, the police begin to follow Nina's demands more carefully. The 50 million rupees is finally transferred, and the internet connection is restored. As promised, Nina releases one child and prepares to make her next set of demands. This time, she asks Javed to locate two men, Rakesh Mathur and Charan Kumar, who work at a school called BWC. On top of that, she insists on speaking directly with the Prime Minister, Maya. Once again, Javed is given only 1 hour. If he fails, another child will die. Javed immediately orders Lakhand to find the two men and bring them to the scene. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Maya, who has just arrived at her hotel, is surrounded by reporters. Everyone knows that the fate of the children may depend on her decision within the next hour. She avoids making any public statements and instead calls for a detailed briefing from the police. Meanwhile, Maya joins a secure call with the Home Minister and the head of National Security. Both of them strongly oppose the idea of her speaking directly with Nina, citing strict protocols and the risk involved. But Maya refuses to back down. She insists that saving the children matters more than any protocol. Since Nina's demand is still not fully met, Maya orders special forces to be prepared, while also making sure that no sensitive information leaks to the media. On the other side, Rohit finally arrives home, and Javed immediately pulls him aside for a private conversation. He asks how long Rohit has known Nina, who her family members are, and why she took a 3-week leave. Rohit explains that they have known each other for 7 years. Naina's father passed away 15 years ago, while her mother is still alive and has been living with her. As far as Rohit knows, Naina took time off because she was unwell. Not long after that, Prime Minister Maya decides to contact Naina first. In response, Naina promises she will release 2 children, or possibly more, but only if Maya agrees to come and speak with her in person. Meanwhile, Catherine and her team manage to locate Naina's mother's house. They search the entire place and find a photo of Naina with her mother, Kusum, along with a box of medication in a drawer. They also gain access to Naina's computer and discover that she had once registered at a meditation center. When they check the medication, it turns out to be antidepressants. Catherine quickly calls Jabd and informs him about the pills, noting that they appear to have been purchased recently. She also suggests that Naina's mother might currently be at the meditation center. Around the same time, Shalini calls Rohit. It turns out they were classmates in the past, and now she desperately asks him to help save her child. But Rohit is powerless in this situation. Shortly after, Javed confronts Rohit with frustration, questioning why he never mentioned the antidepressants. The conversation is secretly recorded by Shalini. Rohit explains that he only recently found out Naina had started taking the medication again. She had stopped 5 years earlier, after struggling to cope with her father's death. Soon the news reports that 2 children have been released, including Shalini's child. But behind the scenes, some of Maya's staff take matters into their own hands. They contact Jabd and claim that the Prime Minister has refused to meet Naina. When Jabd passes this information on, Naina immediately ends the call. Not long after, she takes photos of one of the children, Govakar and Safitri. She then goes live again and announces that the Prime Minister has refused to meet her. Because of that, she decides to let the public choose what happens next. She uploads the 3 photos and opens a vote, allowing people to decide who will be killed next, the child Govakar or Safitri. When Maya sees this broadcast, she is furious. Her staff made a decision without her approval, and their justification is that many people in the country do not want her to meet Naina. One of them even almost crosses the line by implying that a woman in power might act emotionally, which only adds to her anger. Meanwhile, at the TV station, Shalini makes a bold move. She offers the recorded conversation to her boss in exchange for a promotion to become the main news anchor. Her boss immediately agrees, knowing how valuable the information is. The broadcast goes live right away. Shalini reveals that she is the mother of one of the kidnapped children, and she plays the recording that exposes Naina's use of antidepressants. She pushes the narrative strongly, claiming that Naina is mentally unstable and that this instability is the reason behind the kidnapping, even suggesting that Naina has already killed a child. As the broadcast spreads, Naina watches it unfold. Without hesitation, she calls the station and gets connected to Shalini. She points out how the public is now treating the situation like a game, and how their conversation is only fueling the online voting over who should die next. Calmly, Naina turns the situation around. She calls out how the media is exaggerating facts, using labels like madness for someone who takes antidepressants, all to boost ratings and secure personal gain. Before ending the call, she warns that Shalini is about to witness what real madness looks like. That statement leaves Shalini speechless. Soon after, it is time for the children to take their nap. Naina asks them to wear their headsets and plays music to help them sleep, even activating noise reduction so they stay undisturbed. Once the children are settled, she turns her attention back to Govakar and Safitri, showing them the voting results. Most people have chosen Govakar as the one to be killed. Not long after, Safitri asks to go to the bathroom. When her restraints are removed, she suddenly pushes Naina and frees Govakar. A struggle breaks out, but in the end, both of them are overpowered and tied up again. Naina then goes live once more, claiming that she had no choice but to shoot Govakar in the leg because he tried to escape. She is clearly growing more frustrated with the situation. She warns that if the Prime Minister still refuses to meet her, she will kill all 3 of them. Elsewhere, Rohit's father, a senior lawyer, arrives and demands that his son be released. But Javed firmly refuses, pointing out Rohit's connection to Naina. His frustration is so intense that he even raises his voice at Rohit's father. Back inside the house, the children are woken up and asked to celebrate Rika's birthday. They cut the cake together while Naina streams everything live, leaving Rika's parents in tears as they watch from outside. At the same time, Naina begins to recall a painful memory from when she was 16. Back then, she was celebrating her birthday on a school bus with her friends. But after everyone got off, she was left alone, feeling uneasy as a man watched her closely while smoking. That man was Rakesh Mathur, one of the two individuals she had asked Javed to find. At the same time, Catherine, Lokhanda, and the team track down Rakesh while he is out buying cigarettes, and he is immediately arrested. Meanwhile, the police report to Catherine that they have located Kusum at a meditation center and are bringing her in. Not long after, Catherine receives a call from Dr. Junia, the psychologist who has been treating Naina since she was 16 and prescribing her antidepressants. She has just seen the news about the kidnapping, as she had been busy with an important event earlier. Deeply concerned, she shares information that leaves Catherine completely shocked. Soon after, Naina's mother, Kusum, is brought to the scene and immediately questioned by Javed. He presses her for answers, trying to understand why Naina would do something like this. But Kusum remains silent at first. Javed warns her that her daughter's life is now in danger, as special forces could storm the house at any moment. Finally, Kusum speaks. She tells Javed that he is partly responsible for what is happening today. She reminds him of an old case, number 1222, from the year 2007. The story then shifts back to 2009, about 2.5 years after that case. Back then, Kusum would repeatedly visit the police station, begging Javed to find the men who had abused her daughter Naina. The suspects were Rakesh Mathur and Sharan Kumar, and the case had been handled by Javed and Catherine. With her husband already gone, Kusum was left alone, overwhelmed and desperate, with no one to turn to. Yet the case seemed to be ignored. At the time, Javed had given the usual explanation. The investigation was ongoing, and arrest could not be made without proper evidence. But the truth was far more painful. Naina had been abused when she was still in school, and the trauma left deep scars, not only on her, but also on her mother. That is why Kusum eventually turned to a meditation center, trying to cope with the pain. And Naina, from the age of 16, had been under Dr. Juneha's care, relying on antidepressants to manage her condition. Back in the present, Javed steps outside, visibly shaken as he processes everything. Catherine arrives and confirms what Dr. Juneha told her, that Naina had been a victim of abuse at a young age. At that moment, Javed realizes the truth. He and Catherine had failed her. Back in 2007, they had prioritized a high-profile case, chasing recognition and praise, while neglecting a young girl who needed justice. The irony is undeniable. While they were focused on building their reputations, a child was left to suffer in silence, carrying a trauma that would follow her into adulthood. Overcome with guilt, Javed breaks down. He knows that what is happening now is not just Naina's doing. In many ways, it is the consequence of their own failure. Not long after, special forces arrive at the scene, and finally Prime Minister Maya decides to come in person. The tactical units take their positions, while Maya ensures the children are moved to a safer area. She is then introduced to Javed, who is now in charge of the operation. Javed explains Naina's past, revealing the abuse she suffered years ago. Maya is visibly shaken by what she hears. She tries to reach Naina by phone, but she still hesitates to enter the building, fearing for her own safety. At this point, most people, including the police and the public, still see Naina as a dangerous criminal. But Naina is about to change that. She reveals that Akash is not dead. He never was. The shooting was part of a game they often played, and this time, it was staged. The gun had been loaded with empty rounds, and Akash only pretended to be dead as part of her plan. In that moment, everything shifts. The public begins to question what they believed. Naina makes it clear that she is not a murderer. From the very beginning, all she wanted was to speak directly to the Prime Minister. Javed steps in and tells Maya that he will accompany her inside for safety. He also informs Naina that he now understands her past, that Rakesh has been arrested, and that Karan is still being hunted. Hearing this, Naina finally feels some relief. She then shares her final demand. In the end, Maya agrees to enter the preschool with Javed. As soon as they step inside, Naina locks the door behind them. She promises that once their conversation is over, the children and Govakar will be released. Maya is asked to sit down, with a phone already set up to stream everything live. The entire country is now watching. The first thing Naina asks her to do is press send on a laptop. It turns out to be a list of accounts belonging to organizations that support victims of abuse. The 50 million rupees that was transferred earlier will now be distributed among them. Then comes her main demand. Naina wants the death penalty to be enforced for cases of sexual abuse. Maya cannot approve it alone, but she has the authority to push it forward. Naina continues, speaking about the flaws in existing laws that protect victims under 18, arguing that abuse does not follow age limits. She points to data showing that victims range from infants to the elderly, and that a woman is assaulted every 16 minutes in India. In her view, harsher punishment would create fear in offenders and give women a stronger sense of protection. She believes Maya, as a woman, can understand her words, but also says that no one can truly understand the pain of a victim unless they have lived through it. The trauma stayed with her for years. Even as an adult, she struggled with physical closeness, still haunted by what happened. She considers herself fortunate for surviving, knowing that others in her situation chose to end their lives. Maya listens, moved but still questioning one thing. Why involve innocent children in all of this? Nina finally reveals the truth. The kidnapping was never real. It was a plan to force the police to respond quickly, to bring Javed to the scene, to make the Prime Minister sit in front of her, and to ensure that Rakesh would be caught. She clarifies that Rakesh was not the main attacker. Back then, he was only holding her hand while the real abuser, the bus driver Charan, committed the crime. Maya immediately promises that Charan will be found and arrested. But Nina calmly reveals something shocking. There is no need to search for him. He is already there, sitting right behind her. The man known as Govakar is actually Charan Kumar, living under a new identity all this time. 3 weeks earlier, Nina had seen Charan dropping Rika off at the preschool, introducing himself as her new driver. In that moment, everything came rushing back. The fear, the trauma, and the thought that the same thing could happen again to another child. That is why Naina took those 3 weeks off. She used that time to carefully plan everything, not just to expose the people responsible for her past, but to force the entire country to pay attention. Charan tries to deny everything, brushing it off and painting Naina as unstable. But Naina has reached her limit. She points the gun at him, forcing him to confront what he did. At the same time, special forces begin moving in, preparing to storm the house and rescue the children. Prime Minister Maya also steps in, trying to calm Naina and ensure that Karan faces justice through the law. But before anything can be resolved, Karan suddenly grabs Javed's gun and tries to turn the situation around. He attempts to shoot Naina, but she reacts faster. With that, the entire ordeal finally comes to an end. The children are safely returned to their parents, and Naina is taken into custody. Catherine feels a sense of relief, knowing that Javed had engaged the safety on his weapon, which prevented Sharon from firing first. After everything settles, Javed prepares to write his report. Before leaving, he reminds Catherine to take care of herself and her unborn child. A few days later, Maya stands in Parliament, not just as the Prime Minister, but as a voice representing women across the country. She presents a proposal calling for the death penalty for sexual offenders, emphasizing that this issue affects everyone. Every man has a woman in his life, whether it is a mother, a wife, a daughter, or a sister. The public remains divided over Naina's actions. Some see her as a criminal, others as someone who forced justice to happen. But one thing becomes clear. Maya is determined to push for a law that enforces the harshest punishment for these crimes. 6 months later, Naina is in prison, held in a special women's facility, where she now spends her time teaching other inmates. One day she reads the newspaper and smiles. The law she fought for has finally been passed. And as the story closes, a final statistic lingers. During the time it takes to watch this film, roughly 2 hours, 8 women in India become victims of abuse. So the moral of the story is sometimes a child screams for help and no one listens. And years later, the world only hears her after she breaks herself just to be seen.